Break that down. Break that quote down. So what's the quote again?
Well, I don't have the original quote, but
What he said.
he said that Wavelength is more like a Vermeer painting than a Cézanne painting.
And so how do you feel about that?
You got me. Here we are. We're live. Oh, now we're live. I said that. I said that last time too. Live on YouTube. With some like unauthorized. I sound like an old person when I say, "We're live." No, we're not live. We're in person. No, we're together here in Chicago, and we're about to watch Wavelength for the first time, and then come back and tell you what we think about it.
That's right. This is a 45-minute experimental film from 1967, right?
Yes,
that's made it onto the Sight and Sound list.
Yes. It's a bit of an anomaly. You've got Meshes of the Afternoon, Maya Deren's short experimental film on there, and maybe are there others?
Well, there's some the Dada, Buñuel from
yeah. They've got Ancien Andalou on there, which is that is like short length.
Yeah,
that's true. But this is interesting because it represents a whole period, a whole movement in New York in the 60s. So I am very curious just because it's interesting that this one film of all of those gets singled out. Mm-hmm. I don't know if any others have been on like a previous Sight and Sound before. Mm-hmm. But for this to get enough folks to be on there, when you could vote on so many other shorts. Mm-hmm. You would think there would be a lot of canceling out or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, in terms of shorts, I was thinking that you were talking about experimental films. Because in terms of shorts, there's also La Jetée.
La Jetée.
Yeah, that's sort of like 40 minutes.
Yes, they're not even.
You're right.
It's like 20 or 30 or something.
Yeah. But I guess beyond that, I can't. Now I'm trying to think if there's any others.
Yeah, there's actually more now that we talk through it than I thought. Mm-hmm. They're kind of distributed across sort of the decades, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one of the things about a short film, especially an experimental short film, is it's going to be able to do something that a feature can't quite do yet, but it inspires features.
That is true, but then on the other hand, also a feature can never do exactly what this is, because the thing is, the entire film is the experiment. A feature is never going to be. It would be this, you can't replicate this within a feature. The fact that there's like a normal movie around the rest of it, changes the context of it completely.
Right. It's true.
This is Michael Snow saying this is a film. A film it's just this one shot, and that's a film. So that's like it takes on a whole different meaning when that is the entirety of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's coming out of a sort of fine art space. He was a painter and a sculptor before he got into making films. So in that way, he would never be someone that makes like a feature film, for one thing. Mm-hmm. This is an experiment. It's also meant to do something different than what we think of as films, narrative films. Like, this is meant to make you think about entirely different things, make you think about the form of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wrote in my notes that as a structuralist film, this is considered one of the sort of founding structuralist films. a structuralist film stands in opposition to conventional film because they both contain the same form, but the structuralist film draws attention to it while the conventional film is meant to obscure it. You know, a conventional film wants you to suspend your disbelief and go along with the story and not think about the fact that it's 24 frames and, you know, these cuts are putting together scenes that were like shot days apart, or, you know, all these things. Mm-hmm. A structuralist film is about sort of getting you to think about what you're looking at, that film is this thing projected through a film, through like this celluloid. Think about like what the camera is doing, all these things.
Mm-hmm. I mean, before seeing it, I guess the thing that I'm curious about is what it will be of. Like, what is it? I've seen the particular frame image of what it is, but I'm curious as to like why choose anything at all. You could just aim it at a tree outside and it would still have the same effect, one would think. So, you know, how much does that matter?
Yeah, it might be... I don't know if I want to give it away. It might be worth talking about that afterwards.
Yeah.
Why he would choose this over something else, and the types of like experimental films that came before this that were different. You know, the way that his choices were new.
Yeah, I'm curious. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think I want to say he grew up in rural Ontario. But he was born in Toronto. That's where he ended up going to... Yeah, he went to school in Toronto. He lived there after school for a good... something like a decade or something before he moved to New York in the 60s. So yeah, born and raised Canadian. He had two interests growing up that gave him kind of possible paths. And one was painting and stuff that he eventually went down. The other one was music. He was a piano player and he really loved jazz. And he would like play with friends. They kind of had like a jazz band. And so he had the opportunity to possibly go to school for either one of those. And I think it was just kind of random that he got a scholarship for visual arts and decided to go with that. Like at a young age, I think, while he's still in school, showing some paintings and stuff. So like he immediately kind of has success and is able to see that could be a career path for him. Whereas jazz, he's doing kind of on the side as a gig to make a little money sometimes. If I were to describe like his painting and stuff, he's really interested in abstract expressionism. So like he loved Wassily Kandinsky and Mondrian, those early like abstract expressionists. Paul Klee is somewhat of like a contemporary, but he's already pretty well known when Snow was in school, and he's really inspired by him. He's like expressionist, kind of cubist almost.
Right. I imagine he'd be inspired by John Cage too. The composer who famously did a show where he didn't perform anything. He sat in front of the piano, and
when would that have been?
In the 50s.
50s. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Who was it? It was Paul Klee that was also a musician, and I think Snow was unaware of this, but they both talked about wanting to represent rhythm, like musical rhythm, with painting. Mm-hmm. That was kind of a drive of this abstraction that they used. After he's done with school, does a trip through Europe. He gets back to Toronto from this trip to Europe, works at an animation firm, actually, which is his first kind of exposure to filmmaking. And he and his friends will like take the cameras and make little short films kind of in the 50s. And he meets his wife, Joyce Wieland, there, who is also a filmmaker. And when they're living in New York together, they're both going to be making their own experimental films. And she's like a painter and stuff as well. Moving to New York in 1962 is kind of the big thing, where he's going, I feel like I'm kind of stifled in Toronto, and that's where you have to go if you want to elevate your art. Mm-hmm. That's what he's feeling. You have to be in that scene among all those people right now. Because that's the time, like 1962. To go there, pop art has happened and minimalism has happened. And then important to the filmmaking is going to be the experimental film scene, which is its own whole thing, but it's really exploding in 1962, 1963, 1964 when Jonas Mekas he's got his regular column in the Village Voice, and he's highlighting these experimental films. And now we got the train going by.
That's what I said. It's just what's happening. We've pressed record, and now whatever happens.
So they meet Mekas, and they kind of get enveloped in that scene, and they're going and seeing a bunch of films, and then wanting to make stuff and show it. He's developing this series of sculptures called The Walking Woman, where he's got this cutout of just the shape of a woman, the outline basically, and he'll put it places and take photos, kind of create these what would you call multi-formal or multi-discipline sort of artworks, just trying to
multimedia.
Yeah, multimedia, or he'll take a painting and he'll make a walking woman little cutout and put it in front of the painting and display that in an exhibit. Yeah, he's very interested in doing things that haven't been done and trying to move outside of the boundaries of these different genres, painting or sculpture or photography or any of these. Which, I think that's important to how he approaches the filmmaking. Yeah.
That's also, in some sense, a sign of the times when it comes to the accessibility to creating art. I'm sure in the 1900s, right, you had to choose because it was expensive. It was time-consuming for various reasons, depending on what you did. Whereas here in the 60s, things are getting mass-produced now at a quicker and faster rate. So you can pick up a camera and go get film developed and then mash that with shooting a movie or painting. You can do those things because they're more affordable and probably more easy to access.
Yeah, right. And that's, would you say that's one of the pop art sort of innovations? Right.
Warhol did a bunch of things because he could.
Yeah.
And then he popified it, right? He took all these possible things that he could do, and then he did it to a degree that was sometimes almost a parody in a way.
Yeah.
Reprinting a can, Campbell soup can 100 times. So it's pop art almost being satirical in a way.
Yeah, and he did something kind of parallel to pop art where Warhol wanted to take popular images and just tweak those into their own thing. Snow wanted to take this image that he had made, the walking woman, and kind of make that its own sort of iconography, and reproduce that in all kinds of different forms, different expressions. But they're both kind of making art cheaply, sort of changing the way you think about art that way, but kind of approaching it from opposite ways. Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited as one can be for a film like this.
Let's watch it.
So let's try it and then talk more about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
You know what was freaking me out is that microwave clock doesn't change.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you shouldn't have taken an edible before.
I did not, Jack. Not that there would be anything wrong with that, but
no, that would have deepened the experience for sure. Wow. I mean, yeah. I mean, how do we do this without any spoiler alerts, kind of thing? You know. You know, like what was your favorite part? What was your favorite part?
Well, okay. So the thing that strikes me is that this is, I think, a lot more designed than I anticipated. Mm-hmm. That there's sort of these built-in different moments, different variations on the shot.
Right.
Pretty consistently, kind of like every 30 seconds or something almost. Mm-hmm. So, like, when you think of something like the Andy Warhol durational films, like the Empire State Building one, like, those are just like set it and forget it, you know? Mm-hmm. The whole point is nothing is changing the entire time, kind of, except for what's happening in the real world, I guess. Mm-hmm. But he is messing with the film, messing with a lot of stuff. He has really designed this to like make you feel something kind of different throughout the whole thing.
It's true. He even has people coming in.
Yeah.
To a coordinated, effort to not act necessarily, but, do various things. And act in one particular moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then besides that, editing it afterwards to give it that design feeling too.
Yeah, it does seem like you had said, he's probably splicing different types of film together to get these different effects. But then it does seem like the way that he's processing the film afterwards is also changing how it looks as well.
Yeah, I am curious how he's getting the different effects throughout. Sometimes the effect is very intriguing. Things will get brighter, or it'll be reverse, negative. Sometimes going back and forth quickly. Clipping. It looks like sometimes it's one shot when it clips back and forth. So I am curious, what's going on there. And there'll be a moment where most of the time the windows are bright, and then there'll be a moment where you can see outside. It's exposed for outside, and then it'll come right back.
Like the f-stop be manipulated, which is something that Nathaniel Dorsky and Jerome Heiler do a lot in theirs. They're in the New York scene at this time as well. They were not as well known, but I got the chance to see a bunch of their films last year, and I really, really like them. And they're different. They're kind of more diary films, but they've got kind of a structuralist bent where, I don't know, there feels like they're interested in the form. They're interested in the shapes and sort of what these different shots kind of look like outside of any context, Mm-hmm.
Is one of those guys, or are they related to the guy who also another Sight and Sound experimental film? Mm-hmm. Occasionally I see glimpses of beauty of that film.
That's Jonas Mekas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he in the 50s founded Film Culture magazine, and became this sort of evangelist for indie film and experimental film. Like Andrew Saris comes in and writes for that magazine. P. Adams Sidney, who is the one who comes up with this term of structuralist film, writes for Film Culture. But Mekas, beyond just doing that, he gets the Village Voice column. He also helps co-found the Filmmakers Cooperative in New York, which includes Shirley Clark We watched The Connection.
Right.
The Portrait of Jason. We're going to watch that too. Was Cassavetes part of that? I forget. Some people in that, like Cassavetes crowd as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Film Culture magazine gives an independent film award for each year's from like 59 to 69. The first one they give to Cassavetes' Shadows. And this year they give it to Wavelength. The other winners are like Kenneth Anger wins one, Gregory Markopoulos, who's a pretty well-known experimental director. They give it to the guys that do Primary, about John Kennedy's campaign, which is kind of an interesting one, but it's like, yeah, that's fun. That's like a verite documentary that's very new and interesting. But yeah, Mekas, I mean, he just like he grows his celebrity in this scene, kind of grows. He becomes the sort of ringleader of it. I don't know, like it's part of like his celebrity that I think brings these people in and makes them really excited about trying new things with film, because like the fine art world was kind of looking down on experimental film at that time. And someone like a Michael Snow, who was established in that world, coming in to make films was kind of an anomaly. Like it was just like, it was not like, this was not art. Maybe not until like this moment. Maybe there was like a sort of different reception to this film. It was kind of a big deal for Mekas to be saying like, this is like, the film needs to move beyond what Hollywood is, what these other things are like. People really need to experiment and like push this medium forward, you know?
And it's one thing if somebody says something like that, but then don't gain like a kind of group behind them to propel that message. So you have like Andre Bazin, with the Cahiers. So like he's putting out philosophical takes on how film can move forward, and then all these other guys are like, yeah, we dig that so much that eventually we're gonna make our own films modeled after that philosophy. This sounds something similar but happening in New York. It was the sort of cooperation. I mean, it's just like someone had to show these films. People had to want to like go see these films. Right. So it's very different from just like what the world is now. But like these wouldn't exist if there wasn't this scene of other artists and filmmakers and intellectuals that were interested in this. And it makes such a difference when people are really interested in what this one guy is saying about these films. Right. Yeah, like Warhol getting into filmmaking around that time as well is a really big deal. And it is like innovative, like the different types of films that he makes. So there's him. There's also Stan Brakhage, who is kind of the guy who was, I don't know, really innovating with that sort of diary type film, where it's, you feel the filmmaker behind the camera. It's sort of a POV film, that they're going to show you these images handheld. You have kind of a direct connection of like what they want you to feel, like what their expression is. What is something by Brakhage that's more well known? Dog Star Man. Okay, yeah. It's a kind of a big one. But he's made like hundreds of films. You know, there's he didn't do did he do the baby water moving, that experimental? Was that? Because that one was like 1959, around that same time too. It had to have been New York. That part of that scene as well. Yeah, that's Brakhage. That's Brakhage. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, wow. He's. That was very, very new, and that. I mean, it like, still is. Yeah, it would still be. But like, I've heard people like Dorsey and Heiler talk about the time, and like, Mekas was like the evangelist, the preacher, and this was like
Brakhage was like coming from Colorado bringing these films, and he was like the prophet, the like
wow,
showing them new directions to take film in, sort of.
Wow. I mean, to film your wife giving birth in your house, that's an extreme. That's extreme for any day and age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so bold and unbelievable. Like, I cannot fathom. Like, even today, seeing that being screened somewhere, let alone back then.
Yeah, that's so confrontational.
Yeah. And so that's the kind of era we're in, where these guys are they're just trying whatever they possibly can, putting the camera in places and doing things with it that are shocking. This is so great. No, the other thing about this film, let's talk about
Yeah.
the film itself. Sound, bigger component as well than you probably would have assumed.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect from the sound. I heard that he incorporated this like discordant music in one of his first films. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know if it'd be music, if it'd be silent, like what it would be. Mm. Gosh, this just...
Okay, now, I have to preface
yes.
whatever you're going to say by saying that we started this off and you said, turn it up. You were like kind of turning up loud.
Yeah, they're speaking at the start.
You can't really hear too well. And you're like, turn it up. So I did. I turned it all the way up. It goes from a 1 to 100. And I turned it up to like 99.
Yeah.
And still at 99, could barely really hear what they were saying. Kind of just like a muffled vocals. And then 10 minutes in, it switches to this kind of hum sound, which then builds slowly and gets slowly louder and louder and louder. I had to keep turning the volume down. I ended up all the way down to 30 or 20.
Man. Yeah, I was going to go see a screening of this that got canceled, and I can't imagine. I think I would have had a heart attack. Like if this thing was blasting in a theater, because it is it really anxiety inducing, and like, gosh, it adds to the image, the picture of the waves.
Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Yeah. But like the contrast is so high in that picture, like how black the shadows of those waves are. It feels so foreboding. When the whole shot just goes like almost white, and it looks like a nuke has gone off.
Yeah.
Which like that, I think there's a direct connection there. These guys were all thinking all the time about like nuclear war, and they were going and doing protests for nuclear disarmament. Like all those guys talk about how ever present that was in their minds at this time. So that I can't imagine that he didn't have that in his head, in some, like, unconsciously or consciously. Yeah.
Right. Well, then a guy comes in around that time. I think it's like slightly before or so, and just lays down on the ground. Yeah. And lays there, and then the camera's been zooming in slowly over this whole time, so eventually it zooms to a point where you can't see him on the ground anymore. Yeah. And then more time goes by, and then a woman enters into the camera, picks up a phone that's there, apparently. Yeah, there's somebody dead on the ground. Yeah. I love this detail, this little touch, because it made me think, I'm watching an experimental film, and then an actual film is going on the side. Yeah. It just, like, an actual film comes in and says hello for a second. You know what we were saying that these experimental films influence other films, but in a way that those feature films will just incorporate parts of the experimental quality into them. They'll just be little moments. You can't have it's rare to have, there's never been a feature-length film that has been 2 hours of just experimental that's been on the popular radar. Yeah. There are long experimental films, but they still will sometimes incorporate experiments into them. Here, there's a reversal. There's this little feature film right in there for a moment.
Yeah.
And then it pops out. It just comes and says hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Because it's obviously acting.
Yeah.
You know, it's obviously fake.
Yeah. He didn't actually die.
No. The angle from like up high at the beginning where you're seeing the whole room feels kind of like you're looking at a set. You know, just so you can see this whole room. Yeah, but like the absence of the camera moving or being able to cut away or anything, I think draws attention to like it being a set, it not being a set. I don't know. Like, but it's just like, I don't know. This is artificial. This is a recording of a moment that we now watch back. You know.
Well, it's somewhat of a liminal space too. And sets do have this feeling, especially empty sets. Yeah, obviously, is like a liminal quality to it. You go, you get onto the studio floor at night, and no one's there. Turn on the light, and it's just this empty set.
No, that's the thing. It's like it at first makes me think of a movie set, but then it evokes that liminal feeling because there's not a movie happening on it.
Right. But then there is just a little touch of it.
Yeah.
Comes in, and it almost it's teasing out what that looks like, what that can look like. Like I've never seen a kind of a context like that in a movie where there's just no film for how long? 20 minutes.
Right. There's no narrative.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And then there's just a tiny little bit, and then nothing again.
Yeah, I cannot think of anything that would be like that. It's like it's Ozu maybe. Like,
yeah. Well, you
take in micro in like.
Well, you even take Ozu with the straight camera. I was thinking of that with just the one camera angle, and then you dump out all the contents. All the contents. You just flip it upside down, and all that's left in there is sort of the couple things down at the bottom.
Yeah. I think it was better than I expected.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's one of those films that elicits ideas ahead of time that then are shattered.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah.
Which any good film, any good art will do that. Right?
Yeah.
Like if I can describe to you certain movies, and then you probably will get the gist. You'll go and watch it, and you'll go, yeah, it's kind of like how he described, and it was fun and whatever. Then there's certain movies or forms of art where I can describe it to you to a great detail, and even the experience of it will still be radical.
Yeah, this is what's incredible about film, and it comes across watching almost anything, but it's crazy that it comes across watching something like this as well, where it seems to be just like a film of nothing. It still makes you feel like you're looking on a moment that has passed. That like this is sort of like a memory that you're able to access, and like so many feelings kind of come up from that like. You recognize that this was a real place and this like really happened, and that the sort of, as you're watching it, the time's going by and you can't kind of go backwards. Yeah.
I like that. And that makes me think, is there anything you've seen or is there any thoughts about the title and what that represents?
Well, so when that hum came in, it seemed that the wavelength of that sound got shorter as time went on, and it got more high pitched. I think that's how wavelengths work, right?
I think so.
But there's another meaning, which is the length that the zoom has to travel to get to that picture of the waves.
Wow.
And he would do a lot of these little kind of punny names with his like paintings and stuff.
Yeah, and movies too. I saw. Yeah. I do think, though, and I don't know this for sure, but I do think that once he gets to the photo, that then there's a different, like a whole different camera or lens on it.
It did, yeah.
You know, because zooming from that far out, you wouldn't have that much detail.
Yeah. I think that's right. You did notice it change and sort of switch over.
Yeah.
And it was in greater clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if there is something to what you're saying with the nuclear kind of explosion feeling in that one edit that he does, Wavelength too, you know, there's this ominous sense that we're on a precipice here, like we're heading towards, like, when the sound gets that high pitched, like eventually how it ends is with nothing. Like eventually there's no more sound because the wavelengths have gotten to a point where they can no longer feasibly create sound.
Yeah.
And so there's this ominous traveling to an end point. And obviously with movies and with culture in general, we're often afraid that end point will be something apocalyptic.
Yeah. And you're losing detail as the film goes along in the sense that you're zooming in and you can't see the stuff that you could see before of the rest of the room. You see less and less of the room as it goes along as well. You're that is also like going out of existence.
Until the waves no longer exist.
Yeah.
Or the room no longer exists.
Yeah, until the room no longer exists.
And it's just waves.
Yeah. Which... Yeah.
And of course, in waves, there could be representative of, I think back then, especially, they thought that the water would rise quickly because the ice caps melting is a kind of climate, disaster.
Yeah. A lot of disaster, a lot of apocalypse. In this film. Yeah. The shot of the part you're describing, which is the part that looks like it's a nuclear bomb goes off. I mean, the photo looks so faded. It looks like, it was photographed with ash. I mean, it's just barely any detail at all. The other effect of changing the sort of the light and the exposure is that it's like you can either see the room, or you can see outside, or you can see the picture. And if you think about the picture as memory, it's like, you can be in the present, or you can be accessing a memory.
Right.
And I think this is an image of the lake where he grew up. I want to say that's right, because in 70 he does like this big retrospective piece in Ontario. And he designs the sort of catalog to go with the exhibition, and incorporates a lot of pictures around his lake, around his like sort of childhood home, and contrasts that with his like artwork and stuff, seeming to say that like there's sort of two periods of his life where there's like, the past informed the art or something. And I thought, like, it struck me that, like, moving to New York City would give you sort of a perspective, a bifurcation in your life to go, like, my life back in Toronto or Canada, was this thing, this period of time, and now that is totally a memory that's been severed sort of with the move, and like now he's going to have a perspective on that forever. Like that period of time is complete now. That's sort of solidly in the past.
Yeah, the past builds up. That's what it does.
Yeah.
The past is just always kind of piling.
Yeah, but I think, a major event or big move or something like can make that feel like that's an end point of that like piling up, and you make that's its own pile now. You've started a new pile.
Yeah. Yeah, it's solidified.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is in the way he edits and in the way it progresses with the zooming in, with the sound, with the little touches of the other things. It provokes, for sure. It provokes thought, and there ends up being a lot more to chew on than you would have otherwise expected.
Yeah. There's sort of intention in this moment to moment.
I mean, here's another way to say that too. It is, it isn't fully true to say that Jackson Pollock, for example, can be repeated by pretty much anyone, right? What he did was very revolutionary at the time, and yet the look of the art and the way to get it can be done more easily, let's say, than, a realistic painting, classical painting. That takes a lot of time to establish, to learn, to perfect, and to be able to do it. But then if you have a painting that's like just a solid color or straight lines or splashed painting, as revolutionary as it was at the time, sometimes you can look at that and go, yeah, but come on. Yeah. With this, though, there was a lot of intention. You could tell there was a lot of time involved with it itself. I know with Jackson Pollock, it was a lot of time to get to that point when he made those paintings. The paintings themselves, I have no idea how long they took. It looks like they took 5 seconds to make. But with this, it's like he really was intentional with a lot of it. Saying that, though, I don't think it took very long because Strawberry Fields Forever had to have just come out.
Yes. I think they shoot this in the span of a week in December of '66.
Okay. Yeah. And then he edits it for some time after that.
Sometime, yeah.
Yeah. But exactly. Intentionally and with a lot of thought, it shows.
Yeah, and like, of course, the context matters with a Pollock or a minimalist. That specific artist is making that they had the capacity to make something else, and this is what they chose to make. Of course, that's like crucial to the thing, and that's similar in this. But then also, it would be a huge production to make a set that looked exactly like this, looked like 60s New York, and you could, design a storefront or, a street outside and get period cars to drive by and, get the fur coats and all this stuff. And then, shoot it on real film and do these physical processes.
Yeah, let's do a remake.
Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to say is that would cost a lot of money.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It would be very hard to do.
And that would just make it totally different than him making this in his studio that he lived in.
Yeah. It isn't just a camera turned on. It is not at all like the Empire State Building.
No.
Time lapse.
No.
Now, I will say though, I have to think more about why this particular experimental film it finds itself on a list like Sight and Sound over other things. It must just be that impactful and memorable to enough people.
Yeah. Even watching it in this format that we did, I feel like this would be very emotionally affecting if I was seeing this at that time.
Yeah.
And I think it matters that he is an established painter and sculptor making this as well.
Yeah.
Michael Snow said that Wavelength was more like a Vermeer than a Cézanne. What do you think about that?
You will have to describe that to me. You'll have to tell me what you think of that first. break that down. Break that quote down. So what's the quote again?
Well, I don't have the original quote, but
what he said.
He said that Wavelength is more like a Vermeer painting than a Cézanne painting.
And so how do you feel about that?
You got me.
You can look at it.
When I read this quote, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I totally get that. No, is it Vermeer the like hyper realistic
Dutch master?
Yeah.
Is he a Dutch master?
Yeah.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, he does.
And then what's Cezanne?
He does that one.
This is the power of editing.
Yeah, very, very impressionist. Cezanne.
So he says he thinks it's more of a Vermeer than a Cezanne.
Yeah.
Let me think about that. This is what I will say to that. Knowing the difference between the two art forms, between the way the two painters painted, does me no good in understanding that quote. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that shows how well versed these people were. These are obviously.
He went to art school. No,
Yeah.
I was reading some of James King's book on Michael Snow, Lives and Works, and even he makes a point multiple times of being like, Michael Snow was pretty elitist. He was like, everyone thought of him as being kind of full of himself and pretentious, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, you're in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know, when I hear something like that, I often think, I'm not surprised at all. Because what they're doing, what these guys are doing, takes so much guts. They got off their ass in the morning, right? They woke up, and this is what they did.
Yeah.
Despite either going into film in the direction that would make you money and you could get more popular with, or going into the direction of some other thing, right? They were like, I'm going to do these crazy films that won't make any sense to 99% of people. They're, when I hear that they were pretentious, I'm like, or a little into themselves, I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably what it would take,
Yes.
Just have that be the end. Don't do anything else stupid.
Regular directors have to have like so much self-belief.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy's like, I'm actually better than every director. Let me show you what film really is.
Right. This guy falls asleep at Hitchcock movies and then makes a movie like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, King made the connection to Blow Up because that had just come out the year that he makes this. You got a whole kind of murder thing happening, or death thing. Mm-hmm. But
Blow Up is cool because Antonioni is for sure kind of unveiling the mind of an artist like this in a way too. Mm-hmm. I mean, that artist becomes obsessed with figuring out this murder due to these photos he's taken. And typical of Antonioni, you don't know what's going on. And resolution is, not as clear as you would like, that some would like it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about that. It's about highlighting the obsession that artists can have, the obsessive quality they can have.
Yeah. I think it just makes sense that a visual artist like this that's so interested in breaking boundaries is going to get their hands on film and realize that there's so much you can do with this that people don't do. Mm-hmm. That like the confines of what a film is supposed to be are so narrow, and you can mess with it in all these different weird ways, and like that's kind of an intoxicating thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I wish I could watch, or that I did watch more experimental films, because that always inspires me in some way to be like, I can shoot in some sense anything, and then it's really about the editing. It's about the way I'm shooting it. Like, there's so much more you can do with film than and crafting it and all sorts of things.
If you really wanted to, you could probably build out a niche of doing like weird, really out there wedding photography. Just that we're gonna make your wedding look like a Michael Snow film. I bet there would be an audience for that.
Yeah, no, I've seen some strange things. I definitely have seen some strange things. But maybe it's time to push it a little further.
Yeah.
The whole wedding gallery is like reversed. It's all in infrared. The whole wedding's shot in infrared.
Yeah. So. People would go for it. It's like getting some fucking sicko to like do the interior design for your expensive house or something, and they just like splash red paint on the walls and like put one stool in the middle or something, and it's like art, and it's like you're gonna appreciate what they did. Yeah. Let me give you this quote. This is a good quote from Michael Snow about Stan Brakhage. Give you an idea of how he was kind of approaching making these films, given that Brakhage had such a high esteem in the scene. So he says, Brakhage was very influential in a kind of clarifying way because I wanted to not do what he was doing. Of his work, I thought, he's a great filmmaker, but in some ways too personal and expressionist. I thought that the machineness of the camera ought to be stressed, not negated. What he did was very diaristic, personal, and I think it's great what he did. And that was a very avant-garde thing to realize, that films don't have to be made by a crew with a 35mm camera. Stan wasn't the only person who did that, but that's what experimental film was founded on, that one person could do it. And Stan was definitely the leader.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
That really gives you an idea of how this evolves from your diary experimental film to let's do more different. Let's do structuralist.
And that continues today. In various ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I even see that in like we've now seen that in like feature length films doing that back and forth. Somebody will make a movie that is very slow, Tarkovsky, very minimal, slow cinema, like the yellow inside the yellow cocoon. I mean, it's almost like a competition, or what's his name, that Uncle Bomi.
Yeah,
who calls his past lives. Yeah, these are guys who almost seem like they're like seeing how slow a film they can make. And then there's people who are doing the opposite, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Or just your classic big movies. So yeah, there's still the path out to the far edges happening.
Yeah, Radu Jude splicing in an old movie into his movie.
Right. Wow. I actually forgot about that.
Yeah, I love that aspect of don't expect too much from the end of the world.
Yeah. Brilliant.
All right.
What's next?
Let me tell you, Zach. Next week, we're going to be talking about Louis Spoonwell's Belle de Jour from 1967. The master of surrealism and sordid sexuality is back with his first film in color, starring Catherine Deneuve. A pretty pivotal film, at least in European art cinema, and quite a surprising ride. So stay tuned for that.
No, just otherwise, unauthorizedpod.com. Unauthorizedpod.com for all of the links and past episodes and things like that.
All right, peace.